All right. Another week, another episode. Shovix Sports. I'm Corey.
And I am Austin.
We got a big show tonight. We have our draft preview going with the offensive side of the football tonight. And then first, I want to start off with something we talked about last episode, which is kind of popped up again today with sources saying Nico Amalava going to UCLA. It was Colin Cowherd who said it. Kind of the only source that I've seen so far, but either way, it's still out there that he could be going there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't think a big time program would want him. I think I won't be able to fully have my opinion on it until we see the contract. Uh, did they overpay? Is he now making less than he did at Tennessee? Uh, that that'll kind of where that's where my opinion will be formed. I mean, UCLA might be a little better than where I thought he'd end up, but really just depends on what that contract looks like for him. Is he sticking for 2 more years? Is UCLA smart and we're just like, hey, 1 year money? Uh, does he have to fulfill any obligations or can he just do whatever he wants? That seems to be what's most important to him. So they may have been able to give him less money to tell him that he doesn't have to do anything but whatever he wants. So uh, we probably won't hear too much about him this year. I can't imagine UCLA will make a whole lot of noise uh, just given the better competition in that conference. So it'll be a chance for him to show how good he thinks he is.
I saw his family came out and said it wasn't because of the money; it was because of the volunteer offense. Lies. He had stated he wanted receivers. They had decent receivers at Tennessee, so for that, I'm not buying that part. But that's kind of the easy way out to make yourself, look better, right?
Well, and even if it is the offense, it's still I don't want my quarterback coming out and taking no accountability. I mean, even some of the ones who might have a legitimate argument would still come out and just say it's on me. So I think that I think this whole situation just proves not saying he can't grow up and mature and turn into just he could still actually just be a fine individual, but right now uh, he's not at that point. So who knows? Maybe kind of going away and UCLA will help him uh, grow up and mature a little bit.
Well, and again, I think, and what I meant to talk about the other night was Tennessee's already reached out to quarterbacks, right? TCU's quarterback already came out and said, "I'm staying at TCU. Yes, Tennessee's contacted me." So what we should, and we should have probably brought this up the other night, and we won't spend too much more time on this part before we get into our draft preview. No other sport can you reach out and just talk to another person who's on a roster.
There's literally penalties for doing that.
So like that's saying 31 other teams can call Patrick Mahomes and say, "Hey, we'll give you more money than the Chiefs." Like, at no point is this the right thing. It's never going to be the right thing. So why now? Like, this is what we talked about the other night. Of this shit's absolutely the wild, wild west. There's absolutely no control over this. If I were TCU's coach, I would call Josh Heupel up and tell him to go eat a dick. Plain and simple. Like, you lost out on your quarterback. That doesn't mean you get to come in and just grab ours. Second,
Also, if I'm TCU's coach, I'm calling on that quarterback and just offering him more money anyway.
yeah, well, yeah, and
If we're gonna hate on dudes for just getting up and leaving, like I'm gonna show love to the ones who are just like, nah, like I'm sticking. I have prior commitments. You know, I made basically. I don't know if it's a formal contract, but I technically committed to this place
yeah.
for money. I'm gonna hold up my next off season. Maybe who cares? It depends when that goes. But like, if we're gonna hate on dudes a little bit for just leaving like that, then I'm also gonna show some love for the dudes who do the exact opposite.
Oh yeah, and now the most recent ones, South Alabama's quarterback entered the transfer portal, and it's rumored that North Carolina had reached out to him. about joining their team. So again, if you're a mid-major quarterback and these teams start calling, if you're a mid-major coach, you got to say, I mean, there's got to be regulations on this because again, there's literally no other sport that you can literally call anybody and say, "Hey, we'll pay you X amount to leave your team that you're on." Can it happen to the coaches? Yes, but there's still regulations even on that, right? So again, that's my 2 cents on the whole NIL thing, and I think it was kind of fitting that we talked about this the other night. He makes his decision according to Colin Cowherd. So until it's actually official, which I'm sure that's probably moments away, days away. I mean, if
I mean,
Colin,
I've been getting a lot of ESPN and Yahoo texting about it and whatnot, so
yeah,
it's out there. It would have to be again, given this kid, who knows? Could just be a whole fumble, but
right. So moving on, we have one question before we jump into our draft preview. Where would you rank Trey McBride as far as tight ends go? That for me, that's number three. I'm still going to put him as number three. I would have said number four, but I bumped Mark Andrews down just a tad. But I'm still going George Kittle, Travis Kelsey, and then Trey McBride. Now, if Travis
yeah.
comes out and has another season like he did last year, then we got to talk about moving Travis down. But I'm not going to let one season define what he's doing, and therefore I'm going to still keep Trey McBride as number three on my list.
Damn, maybe people are gonna. Well, I guess those will be Yahoo top 10 or fantasy top 10. If we're just talking in general, I'm putting McBride number two, uh, because I'm gonna have uh, my mind just went. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have Brock Bowers number one. Uh, to me, there's really your preference. McBride fits a little bit more of the true tight end mold than Bowers, but I seeing what Bowers did as the one dude you knew who was gonna get the ball thrown his way 15 times a day with the quarterback play they had. I can't hate on it. So I'm actually gonna have McBride two. Uh, I can also see why you would put him one, just because he's more of a true tight end mold. Then I think Bowers is more of just like a thick receiver. Uh, but man, that division alone with McBride and Kittle, like those tight ends are.
Well, and I think you're starting to see kind of like a changing of the guard in the tight end position, kind of like you did with quarterbacks, right? Peyton retires, Tom retires. Now, insert Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, all those guys. Well, now you're starting to see that with tight ends. Down years for Kittle and Travis
And Andrews.
and Andrews, and now you're starting to see Brock Bowers setting rookie records for receiving. Trey McBride becoming the highest paid tight end. So
And you're gonna
yes,
have that Kyle Pitts breakout year. That
well,
can't go without
I
saying. But
mean, maybe at some point, but
but you're right. The tight ends are getting deeper.
and,
Uh,
and maybe with Michael Penix, Kyle Pitts could end up very well being one of the best tight ends.
we're always gonna find that one reason to believe in the guy.
Yeah. So good question, Sports SP. Thank you for that. And we're gonna move on to the main event. This is our draft preview. We did pretty good on this last year. Um, I don't know, this year's draft's a little different because last year was obviously QB heavy, and we kind of knew, the top 5-ish range, as far as like positions go. I'm not gonna place these guys and where they're gonna go. It's kind of more of just where our rankings are, compare them to PFF.
But even last year, like, and there will be a couple lists we get to where we just say, "What the hell was PFF thinking?" That's probably going to be a common statement tonight. But the only one I can remember from last year that we absolutely nailed was Sandra Stoll. They had him as like the ninth or 10th corner, and we were just like, "Nah, like this dude's a stud. Get out of here." So that's kind of what I enjoy about doing this now is we can come look even after a year and be like, this is how bad PFF is. And after 1 year, we got to go and look and be like, look how awesome we are. Uh, that's probably the one time that we'll be able to say that, but we're gonna ride that until this next year when we can look back.
Yeah, so there were some issues the other night that we're fully aware of. So when we put these pictures up, we're going to PFF is a hit or miss. Hello, Tim. Welcome to the chat.
Appreciate you as always.
But yeah, PFF is definitely a hit or miss. So again, we may not leave these pictures up very long just because we think that was the reason we were getting booted the other night. So again, bear with us. If we do get booted, we'll be back and we may just come back without without OBS and the graphics. So starting off with quarterbacks, there's our list right there. You can kind of see where we're at as far as the rankings go. So mine's on the left, PFF middle, and then Austin on the right. So again, it's kind of universal as far as we're all Cam Ward number one, and then we had Jackson Dart, and then Shadur Sanders number three.
I
So
think that's the consensus kind of top three is Ward, Dart, and Sanders, and we're gonna go ahead and take that down. If we get any comments or anything, we can pull it back up. But I think it's kind of the consensus three, right? Ward, Sanders, and Dart. I guess PFF thinks maybe Milrow a little bit.
yeah,
Uh, but that think about last year, we were going like six quarterbacks deep,
yeah,
thinking about how to rate them, and after this, we're like three, uh, and we're not even sold on that.
no, and again, I honestly, in my opinion, I think once you get past you know Ward, Dart, and Shadur, I think after that it's kind of a crapshoot. Like you can really, literally take anybody else. But again, I've been saying all along that I think Jackson Dart is the Bo Nix of this year's draft, barring situation.
Like going to the Browns, then you can scrap everything we've ever said.
Yeah, and that's again, we've always talked quarterback has to match with coach. And as far as Browns go, I get it. It's not a good show in Cleveland right now. And then let's see. First question on here tonight.
Where did we have Kyle McCord? I'm listening as I'm cooking dinner. A never want to get in the way of grub time too much, but
I had Kyle McCord. Uh, yep, looking at it right here. I had Kyle McCord as
you got him fifth, I believe.
yeah. I had him high. I had him five.
I
You
had
had
him
him
seven.
seven. So
PFF was a little lower. PFF had him nine. Um, that just kind of goes to show, right? Everyone all over the place with it. I think Kyle McCord is definitely one of those. Could be like Russell Wilson's, where if he goes to that perfect Seahawks fit in the third round, beautiful things can happen. I don't. When I have to rely on solely a situation to truly believe in a guy, I think I'm gonna have to knock him down a little bit. Um, it is important, but I think for his purpose, it solely has to be a position for it to work, like a situation for it to work.
yeah, I did like him at Syracuse. He was putting up pretty good numbers, and I do think of these 10, he has the potential possibly to be a bigger sleeper than some of these guys as far as that goes. I know, some will say Will Howard. No, I don't think so. I think with Will Howard, it's more of his decision making. I think it's gonna be a little bit more difficult in the NFL as far as decisions go because
He doesn't have the greatest arm talent either. um, I think you have a couple quarterbacks who are going to be like the Taysom Hill uh, role. Like Ewers has potential, but like Leonard, Will Howard, some of those are probably going to, if they want longevity and not just like a backup role or third string, they'll have to get that like Taysom Hill type role going on. And I think Will Howard's one of those.
yeah, and it's not to say Will Howard, couldn't come in and play, right? I think he'd serve well by not playing this first year, and maybe not even the second year. I think you'd have to let him develop at his pace, not try to push him. He's definitely got to go to a place where they maybe have an established starter and an established backup already. There's no harm in that. No one's saying Will Howard needs to come out and just be a Josh Allen right away.
But for example, like if he went to the Chiefs, sitting behind Patrick, sitting behind Gardner Minshew, he's obviously not going to take over Patrick Mahomes' job ever. But if you can go to a place like that for a couple years to learn and then be able to break off and go somewhere for an opportunity, I think that's when he would potentially turn in to what he can be.
Yeah, so let's talk about a guy that you mentioned not too long ago, in Tyler Show or Shuck, whatever you want to say. We got a chance to see him a little bit at Texas Tech before he went to Louisville. High, low. I mean, is he steal potential? as a steal, or are you kind of more like, eh, compared to the other guys that are obviously on the top 10?
I think his window for opportunity is smaller given the fact that he's already like older than Bo Nix. Um, so I don't know. His window for opportunity is going to be smaller. I like his size. I think if he can go to like what some of these people are called quarterback whisperers, there could be some hope there because he has the frame, the body work. Is it just is it going to be more like a Joe Flacco type with that frame or more like a Josh Freeman? Like there are two paths that quarterbacks this size take, and the likelier path is Josh Freeman. I mean, that's just typically where these go. But I think again, every staff is going to believe in themselves. We'll know come draft night where he goes if we're confident of that's a good situation or not. Uh, I think his upside is just a little lower given the fact he's already 3, 4, 5 years older than everyone.
Yeah, and there was another person on the top 10 that we'd recently talked about, and someone actually liked him as their steal, and that's Dylan Gabriel. I believe it was Matt. When we were talking to Matt, Matt liked the idea of Dylan Gabriel being possibly a good, a steal. We talked about the size, and the size being maybe an issue as far as, does that hurt his chances? I mean, we know the arm's obviously not there either, but
He is cerebral.
he is. He's cerebral. We obviously saw him at Oklahoma. I mean, obviously UCF, Oklahoma, and then Oregon. And Oregon doesn't run like an easy offense either. I mean, that has Justin Herbert and Bo Nix, so he was able to kind of
Step right
dominate.
in.
He
Yeah.
he fit in. So, what are your thoughts on Dylan Gabriel? And do you think, where would you kind of? I know we have him on our rankings, but as far as like maybe look past those three, do you see him? Let's go ceiling for Dylan Gabriel.
Ceiling for Dylan Gabriel, I think he could actually be the second best quarterback in the draft. Um, just given the quarterback class itself. It's always hard for me because I've always, and I haven't adjusted with the times. I've always been that big quarterback, big the Tyler Shows of the world.
Right?
That's always been my preference. I think having the Kyler Murrays, the Drew Breeses, some of these smaller quarterbacks,
And Timmy says Dylan Gabriel's a left-handed QB, and we know how that goes.
yeah, it's true. There's
I,
that like stigma,
do you
right?
would you sit here right now and say that he would be better than Tua though?
Yeah, I would.
See, I kind of think so too.
They're
I
actually kind of identical. I trust his decision making a little bit more. Uh, probably even arm strength a little bit.
And obviously history shows with him and injuries as well, but I don't know, man. That's
If Dylan Gabriel was like 6'1", we'd be talking about a first overall pick.
uh,
Maybe maybe a
they
little
talk.
taller, but
I think he could be maybe a first round. I don't know if I'd say first overall, but again, that is how weak this draft class is as far as quarterbacks go.
yeah, he's that cerebral though. We're almost saying the same things about him that we did Bo Nix. He's cerebral. He's pinpoint accurate. You're never gonna be. He'll make plays that have you scratch your head. All of them. Patrick does it. Josh. I mean, they all do it. But for the most part, you're gonna be okay calling anything at any point, knowing that his decision making most of the time is gonna pan out. If he's left-handed and a little smaller, and uh, whether you agree with it or not, that it seems to matter when coming to draft quarterbacks.
Yeah, one other quarterback that I kind of want to talk about before we move on is Quinn Ewers. That's another name. I don't know if I'm as down on Quinn Ewers as some of the other guys that I've been listening to, as far as you know what they think, as far as what he is as a prospect. Um, I think Quinn Ewers, and again, I think Quinn Ewers would fit really well in San Francisco. I think if he was able to run an offense with Kyle Shanahan, again, it's easy to say, but I think pairing him in his own offense, being able to run play action, getting out and doing certain things, I think that would benefit Quinn Ewers. Now, if he were to get drafted by literally anyone else, I don't know if it works as well because even if the Vikings were taking him, he's not starting with Vikings. Uh, you know, Indianapolis, I'm not sure they're really. I'm not sure they're really willing to. But if Quinn Ewers can somehow find his way onto the 49ers, I do actually kind of like his ceiling.
Well, that's kind of unfair. I feel like any quarterback, it's a system where the reads are already done for you. Um, it's hard for me with Ewers because I was never up on him to begin with. Um, I don't know if it's just my little bit of Texas hatred in me. I just don't like them. With that being said, I do love Arch Manning already, but uh,
Facts.
like if I was a team needing a quarterback, I would just draft a stud, wait for the next couple classes. But I don't know. I think I had Ewers up there just ahead of Leonard and Howard, just because I don't think they're going to be long time quarterbacks. So I think Ewers is like legitimately the very last one on my like quarterbacks. Um, there's potential there. If we look through the tape from a couple years ago, he looked every bit as legit as a top 2 or 3 quarterback in this draft. So developmental may or may not. I don't know. He's a seasoned guy. Uh, played through some injuries, so toughness is there. Um, he's probably not as low as I think, but probably not as high as some others are. Probably somewhere in the middle uh, QB range. Not in that top echelon, which should say everything you need to know in this class. But uh, yeah, I don't know if I can say if he just goes to one team. That's not fair. Like Riley Leonard goes to the Niners, I think he'd look really good. Uh, so you're right. If he ends up with the Niners, then I think he's going to be wonderful.
Riley Leonard could go to the Ravens. He likes to run the football, and I think he'd be really good as far as backups go. Uh, obviously he's not going to be able to do what Lamar does, but again, I think. I mean, we're not going to sit here and place all these guys. It's easy to do, but I'm sorry I'm
No.
getting sidetracked on that because it is kind of really fun to start thinking about some of these. But again, you see that 1 through 10, even on the PFF side of it, and you kind of realize how shit this QE class really is.
Yeah, no, the PFF list. And shockingly, this wasn't even the worst list I think PFF had.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, no.
so uh, it's going to be a weak class. You know, there's going to be a run of quarterbacks. It may not be high like it was last year, but there's going to be a run when like Milrow down to like Quinn Ewers and 4 or 5 quarterbacks in between. There'll be a run. I just think it's more of a day 2, round 3, maybe 4, when it'll really start happening.
I think I'm trying to go back and forth between Jackson Dart and Milrow of who's going to be the first round, like one of those guys that's going to squeeze into a first round pick. I think it could be Milrow too. Again, I'm still confident that Jackson Dart is the Bo Nix, but then I start thinking and looking at the prospects of Jalen Milrow, and I think what he has, coaches do like. He's coachable. Nick Saban obviously had him for a couple of years. Then obviously last year wasn't their best season as Alabama as a whole. But I do like Milrow.
I like his ceiling,
I do too. I don't.
but he also I think has the worst floor.
Yeah,
Like this is the
absolutely.
he's the boomer bust as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have teams in the first round that are going to be able to take that chance
I'm
on
telling you,
something
I
like
think
that.
Milrow will be the one that a team trades up with like the Chiefs or Bills just in case he is the boom. You get that 5th year option, but I don't know if a team's just going to be sitting there like 19 and take him.
Final prediction on number for first round quarterbacks. Not what you think, but what I mean, what it
The
is.
vibe I get is still 4.
Yeah,
I think you Ward, Sanders, Dart, and Milrow all end up in the top. I think an ideal situation would be Milrow to the Steelers. They still get Rodgers. Milrow gets to learn for a year or two. They still get the 5th year option. Uh, Dart to the Saints makes sense. I think they have to with Derek Carr now. Um,
starting to see that's where Shador may end up.
and then I think Shador and Ward are obviously first round picks. So I would have 0 in the first round. But
Milrow to the
quarterbacks,
Rams at is that 26? 26?
that's
Dude,
true.
Milrow at the I like
And
I
Milrow with McVay would
I think yeah, dude, that gives McVay
a little bit more than what he's used to.
yeah. So I do, and that's kind of why I liked Shador to the Saints. But again, who knows what the Saints are really trying to do? It went from we want Derek Carr to now Derek Carr's kind of hurt, and again he may be, but at the same time it's kind of a little suspicious on that.
Yeah,
So
they're those borderline teams you don't know, and they're really the ones who are going to dictate the direction of this draft.
yeah,
Um,
and I guess McVay could be another one that I could see Quinn Ewers being okay with.
I would love Jackson Dart with McVay. That would be my dream scenario.
Yeah, yeah, well, and you still get to learn from Stafford for a year because obviously they're not going to move on from Stafford, so
No,
they're not going to be in any rush to get a QB to start. So again, they've knocked their drafts out of the park as far as what they've been able to do. So they could maybe take a chance on this one
now that they're keeping their draft picks again,
now that they're keeping their draft picks and they kind of got their defensive cornerstones essentially. Now, obviously, with Puka being their offensive cornerstone, Kyron Williams,
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. So now you just really got it. You can really play the system and get that quarterback to sit behind Stafford for probably 2 years and go from there. So uh, good run for the quarterbacks right here. Let's move on to the running backs. Um,
Deepest position in the draft.
this one was a little tougher as far as like the rankings go. There's probably like at least 10 to maybe 8 to 10, maybe 12 guys that could have easily been on this top 10 list that didn't get there.
Yeah, I think you'd have a legit case of 1 through 15 all deserving to be on this top 10 list somehow.
Yeah, so obviously PFF, Genty, Hampton, um,
Scatty Boo.
Scatty. Yeah, that's so. Let's talk about Scatty Boo real quick.
Nah.
Exactly. I haven't been high on Scatterboo as being anywhere near NFL ready or just an NFL running back in general. I know there's a ton of people out there who do like Scatterboo as an NFL running back. I get he made the plays in college, but this again,
Yeah, I love his style. I would love Scatty Boo on my team as like a fifth round pick.
there's absolutely no goddamn way he's number 3 running back in this class.
I I'd be shocked. Anything's possible with these teams though, and you do have teams like the Browns out there. Other one Giants are out there, like teams who just proven they don't know how to draft. But like, I love his style, but he's not what PFF thinks.
If you can get him in the 5th or 6th, 4th, 5th or 6th, you got to steal, right? Cuz then I do think he is like maybe your third down guy, goal line guy for a year or two, working his way in there when needed. Anything before that, I think you're still kind of reaching just a tad. And again, nothing against the dude. Loved watching him at Arizona State. What he was able to do, and then after the contact was obviously there. Now you're going up against guys who don't miss tackles often, right? So um, again, I'm not. PFF got this one wrong.
No, I agree. He's one of those that we're not taking away anything that he did in college. I actually thoroughly enjoyed watching him in college. This is just how we think they would translate to the NFL. Um, he's tough. I don't know if he's like they have him ahead of I don't know. This is Henderson and Jack. Like I don't know. This is wild to
Timmy
me.
asked where we had Tutton. That
We
he did,
don't.
we don't, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't be on there,
Like he's
right?
one of the ones who you'd have an argument.
You have a perfect argument on, but again, the main thing I want to point out here is PFF has Cam Skadaboo as number 3.
I
Uh,
didn't have him.
again, then they have Samson and then Johnson, and these are guys that I would take over Scatterboo all day, every day. Henderson, number 6, then Judkins 7, Harvey. Again, this is blasphemy. I would even it's and yes, you see my list that I don't have Scatterboo on my top 10, but I would take literally every single guy from 10 up to where he's at over him if I'm being completely 100% honest.
Yeah, I mean neither one of us have him on our top 10. Uh, yeah, Travion Henderson and Quinshad Judkins,
3 and
3 and
4.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at.
I do think.
I
Yeah,
would honestly have Judkins over Henderson still too. I'm still as of tonight, I'm still on board with Denver getting Judkins at 20. I wouldn't be upset if Henderson was there and they snatched him up either. I know even Hampton. Yes, I'm starting to get on board with the running backs, but PFF do better.
No, I agree. I think there's a couple on this running back list. I think the other one for me was Damian Martinez. Uh, kind of the same as Scatty Boo for me. Scatty Bo, Scatty Boo. I don't know. It's again, Miami did have a hell of a year, so some of their draft stocks probably do reflect that a little bit. But there were just some true pure runners that PFF didn't have in their top 10. Um, I know we're more of the all around back, so some may grade a little bit higher on pass block or pass pro and receiving, and that might be why they were elevated a little bit. I still think first and foremost, I want my running back to be a pure running back. I do still want you to be able to pass pro and all that, but I'm still looking for best pure runners. That's why I like Mullings from Michigan. That's why I absolutely love Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Um, yeah, the running back list I think was one of the biggest what the hells for
Yeah,
PFF.
and Tutton averaged almost 6.5 yards a carry on 183 carries, 15 touchdowns for Virginia Tech. Yeah, I get that argument. I do. It's when you're so loaded down at a position, you gotta, there's gonna be some guys here that are gonna slip, and that's not a bad thing. That just means the team's gonna get fucking lucky.
Yeah,
They're
he's
gonna
going to be one of those your team makes the pick on in the third or fourth round, and you're going to be stoked about.
He could even be there sitting there second and still be like the eighth or ninth running back taken in the second round,
Yep.
and he's still gonna make some team happy. I look maybe the Cowboys if they don't get Genty, or that's a team who has to walk out of the draft with a running back. There's no way around that. Denver's got to walk away with the running back. I don't think it needs to be a first round running back, but if it is, awesome. I think the Chiefs could take a look at one.
I hope not. Um, I mean, I like the running back room we have, um, given the fact we aren't really a run heavy team, uh, which is unfortunate because I do love a lot of running backs in this draft. And they're still a team. Running backs one that Chiefs might take that fifth, sixth round one, but I don't think you're looking at like a second or third round running back for the Chiefs.
I'm still sitting here. I'm gonna go. We did this last year with our dudes KU. Um, I have Devin Neal obviously on here. We have him. I think we have him respectable on this. It's not like we went up and put him number one, even though we wanted to, right? Like KU fandom aside, I still think he's one of the top 10 running backs in the draft, maybe even closer to top five, in my opinion. Someone's gonna get a steal. What do you think Devin Neal's biggest maybe knock would be if a team were to take him?
Yeah, and I don't know his 40 speed, which I'm not a big combat person anyway. I'm just gonna go from my experience of watching him at KU. He never fully had the breakaway speed. He would always get those 40, 50-yard runs, but he'd always get caught. Again, even as an NFL team, you're gonna be happy with his running style and him always, getting chunk gains. But I do think knock would be the true full breakaway speed. He lacked that even in the Big 12. They're only a little faster in the NFL. That's really the only knock. We know he can pass block. We know he's a great receiver. He's a true patient runner. He falls forward, not easy to bring down. Like he is solid across the board. It's just the breakaway speed isn't there for him.
Yeah, and I think I'm still sticking with Le'Veon Bell as who that is. And again, I think if his breakaway speed and his speed was a little better, he's a first round running back easily. Probably even a top three running back as far as that goes, just based on his ability to make guys miss his one cut. I mean, just go put the tape on. Go watch the Colorado game. I know it's not a good defense, but then if you want that, then go put on the Iowa State game, the Houston game, TCU game. There's plenty of games that you can watch of him going up against an okay defense. It just